Avoid this foggy road after midnight, a scary encounter. You know that special kind of quiet that only happens on a deserted road after midnight? The kind that's just unsettling. Well, on this one particular road, in a fog so thick it felt like driving through a cloud, the silence was the last thing to be worried about. What crawled out of that mist? It wasn't human. And it was coming right for the driver. Section 1. The Drive Home. This story isn't mine. It was pieced together from interviews and a heavily redacted incident report from the man it happened to. He doesn't like to talk about it anymore, and honestly, I don't blame him. To protect his privacy, we're just going to call him Mark. Mark's night started off completely normal. He was a manager at a distribution center, and a massive inventory count had kept him and his team at work until well past 1 in the morning. The drive home was one he knew by heart, a 45-minute trip from the industrial outskirts of the city to his quiet house in the country. He'd driven this route 1,000 times. He knew every curve, every pothole. He could practically do it in his sleep. The first half hour was fine. He was listening to a late-night talk radio show, the host's gravelly voice a small comfort in the dark. The highway was pretty much empty, aside from the occasional pair of taillights fading into the distance. But when he took the exit for the final stretch home, a 2-lane county road cutting through miles of forest and farmland, something changed. The fog rolled in without any warning. This wasn't a gradual mist. It was like a switch flipped, a sudden, suffocating wall of white. 1 second he could see the reflective road signs, and the next, his entire world was just a 10-foot bubble in front of his headlights. The white lines on the road became his only guide, a fragile thread pulling him through a total void. He slowed the car to a crawl, leaning forward with his knuckles white on the steering wheel, just straining his eyes to see anything. The forest on either side, usually a familiar sight, now felt like a solid black wall, hiding God knows what. Then, the radio signal dissolved into a hiss of static. He tried changing the station, but it was all the same, just a loud, empty crackle. He finally shut it off, and the silence that rushed in felt heavier and somehow much worse. Section 2. The inciting incident, the stall. He was about 5 miles down that county road, right in the spot where the trees grow thickest, their branches locking together overhead and blocking out any light from the sky. His phone's GPS had lost its signal miles back. It was just him, his car, and the fog. That's when the first light flickered on his dashboard, the oil pressure light. It blinked once, twice, and then stayed on. Mark's heart skipped a beat. His car was old, but it was reliable. He'd just had it serviced. He muttered a curse, his mind already adding up the cost of a tow truck. Then another light came on, the battery, then the check engine light. His dashboard lit up like some kind of morbid Christmas tree. The car started losing power. He could feel it in the accelerator, a sponginess that shouldn't be there. The engine's steady hum turned into a sputter, then a cough. It was a sick, dying sound that echoed in the fog. He desperately pumped the gas, trying to coax the car just a little further, maybe to a clearing or a wide shoulder where he could safely pull over. But the car had other ideas. With one last shuddering cough, the engine died. The dashboard went dark. The power steering locked up. And the headlights, his only connection to the world, blinked out, plunging him into absolute, terrifying blackness. The car silently rolled another 50 feet before coming to a dead stop, angled slightly into the road. Mark just sat there for a moment, the silence broken only by the frantic pounding of his own heart. He turned the key. Nothing. Not a single click. The car was just a dead piece of metal. He tried his phone again. Still no signal. The feeling of being completely cut off was crushing, like a physical weight on his chest. He was a ghost on a forgotten road, swallowed by the night. Section 3. Rising action. The figure. His frustration quickly soured into a cold, creeping fear. Every horror movie he'd ever seen started playing on a loop in his head. He was stranded, alone, in the middle of nowhere, on a road where another car might not show up for hours. He took a few deep breaths, trying to push the panic down. "Okay, Mark," he whispered, his voice sounding small and thin. "Just wait. Someone will come along." He decided to wait 5 minutes before trying the ignition again. He stared out the windshield into the wall of white. The fog was so thick it almost looked solid, swirling in currents he couldn't see. He thought he saw something move in the trees, but wrote it off as his imagination working overtime. He was about to try the key when he saw it. In his official statement, he said, "That's when I noticed it. A flicker. Not light, but shadow. Up ahead, right at the edge of where his headlights would have been, a shape started to form out of the mist. It was faint at first, just a dark smudge, but as he stared, it got clearer. It was a figure. The silhouette of a tall, thin person standing right in the middle of his lane. A wave of relief washed over him, so strong it almost made him dizzy. Someone else. Maybe they lived in a nearby farmhouse, or maybe their car broke down too. He reached for the door handle, ready to get out and call to them just for the comfort of not being alone. But he stopped. Something was wrong. The figure wasn't just standing there. It was moving. But it wasn't walking. Mark would later describe the motion as unnatural and jerky. It would lurch forward a few feet, stop, and then lurch forward again like a puppet with tangled strings. There was a rhythm to it, but it was a broken, stuttering rhythm that made the hair on Mark's arm stand right up. His relief vanished, replaced by a primal dread that settled deep in his gut. This was not a person who needed help. This was something else. Section 4. Climax. The encounter. He watched, completely frozen, as the figure continued its bizarre advance. It wasn't fast, but it was steady, closing the distance with that same sickening, disjointed movement. His hand, which had been on the door handle, shot to the lock, pressing it down with a loud clunk that seemed to echo in the car's silence. He tried the ignition again, whispering, come on, please start." He twisted the key, again and again. Nothing. The engine was dead. The figure was closer now, maybe 100 feet away. The fog was still too thick for fine details, but he could see its general shape. It was impossibly tall and thin, with limbs that seemed way too long for its body. It looked like it was wearing dark, ragged clothes that just hung off its frame, as if there was nothing underneath. What was most disturbing, the thing that made his heart sink, was the sound. Or rather, the lack of it. There was no crunch of gravel, no scuff of shoes on the pavement. It moved in total silence, a phantom gliding through the mist. Mark's breathing was ragged and loud in the small car. He felt a tear of pure terror run down his cheek. The figure stopped about 50 feet from the front of his car. It stood perfectly still, a dark statue in the swirling fog. For a moment that felt like an eternity. Nothing happened. Mark held his breath, his eyes locked on the shape, praying it was just a trick of the fog. Then, its head tilted. It didn't turn. It tilted, snapping to the side at an angle that shouldn't be possible. A faint, dry, crackling sound, like dead leaves, seemed to carry through the air. It was the first sound the thing had made, and it was a sound of pure wrongness. He could see its face now, or the lack of one. There were no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, pale, oval shape. Then one of its long, stick-thin arms rose slowly, deliberately, until it was pointing directly at Mark's windshield. Directly at him. That single gesture shattered his paralysis. A surge of pure adrenaline shot through him. His body screamed fight or flight, and he chose flight. With a sob of desperation, he shut his eyes, turned the key one last time and screamed. The engine roared to life. The headlights flashed on, blasting the horrifying figure in a sudden glare. It didn't flinch. It didn't move. It just stood there, pointing. Mark didn't stick around to see what it would do next. He slammed the car into drive, stomped the accelerator to the floor, and wrenched the wheel to the left. The tires screamed as the car swerved around the figure, missing it by inches. Section 5. The Escape and Aftermath. He didn't look back. He couldn't stand the thought of seeing it still standing there, or worse, following him. He drove like a man possessed, his foot glued to the floor, his eyes locked on the white line that was his only way out. The fog seemed to cling to the car, but he finally broke through it a few miles later, bursting into the clear night air like a man surfacing from a drowning. The first thing he saw was a brightly lit 24-hour gas station, an oasis of normalcy in a world that had just gone completely sideways. He pulled in, his car shuddering to a stop by a pump. He just sat there for a full minute, his whole body shaking uncontrollably. He called the police. His voice was trembling so badly it took him 3 tries to explain what happened. He knew how it sounded. A stalled car, thick fog, a guy who's exhausted after a long shift. They were skeptical, but they said they'd send a patrol car to check it out. An hour later, an officer called him back. They'd driven the entire road. They found nothing. No stalled car, no strange figure, not even footprints on the soft shoulder. And his own car. When he finally dared to try it again, it started right up, no problem at all. In the end, the official police report lists the incident as unfounded, a possible hallucination brought on by exhaustion and the disorienting fog. But Mark knows what he saw. He sold that car a week later. He found a different job with a normal 9-to-5 shift, and he has never, ever driven on a deserted road after midnight again. Some roads are just best left alone after dark. You never know if your car will be the next one to die, or what you'll be forced to face in the silence. What would you have done? Would you have stayed in the car? Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you have a true scary story you'd like to see on this channel, you can send it to the email in the description below. For more true horror stories based on real encounters, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Until next time, stay safe out there.